the Chiefs would still be undefeated by, what are we at, October 27th, 2024? I mean, we're almost to a calendar year at this point since the last time the Chiefs lost a football game. They've dealt with a lot of adversity. They've lost key guys to significant injuries. They have not gotten the best quarterback play from Patrick Mahomes. Yet, after a 27-20 win at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs are a perfect 7-0. You are locked into the Red and Gold Postgame Show, brought to you by Boda Box Wine. I am your host, Jack Johnson. Dylan Michaels is producing this thing. Kyle Collier doing a great job keeping us posted on all of the audio that'll be brought to you over the next handful of hours. Now, I know that we're going to be having some callers here shortly, and you can always call into this show at 913-381-0810. That's 913-381-0810. Let us know your thoughts after a 27-20 win over the Las Vegas Raiders to move to 7-0. I know there are going to be some people that have a little bit of disappointment in certain areas of this team. I mean, if I was being realistic, if I was being honest with everybody here, it is a 7-0 football team, but it is a flawed 7-0 football team. But I would rebuttal with this. I don't think there's a perfect team in the NFL right now. I mean, the only perfect team win-loss-wise is this Kansas City team I'm talking about having minor flaws here and there. But I would also tell you this. The Baltimore Ravens, who lost to the Raiders all the way back in Week 2, won 5 in a row. And slowly got that appreciation, that respect from the national media again. Dominating teams. Lamar looked like an MVP frontrunner again. They lose to Jameis Winston and the Browns today. A 1-6 Browns team that traded away their best receiver, that had to go to their second-string quarterback before Week 10. And that quarterback threw for over 330 yards and had a game-winning touchdown in the final minute of the game. That Ravens team, who everybody was starting to talk about as the scariest team in the AFC because Kansas City is here playing around with its food, has too many injuries, Patrick Mahomes isn't playing well, they lose to the 1-6 Browns. So before you might have this feeling of, they didn't play that well against the Raiders, they should have beaten up on the Raiders. They were a 10-point favorite. They won a division rivalry game. That's something Baltimore couldn't do. I mean, Cincinnati, who have been playing better of late, they lost by 20 at home to Philadelphia. The point I'm trying to make with some of these top teams in the AFC, though Cincinnati not so much, they're 3-5. Buffalo had an impressive win against Seattle, but sometimes when they've been tested this year, they've been destroyed. Kansas City is the team that they've been tested by multiple teams so far this year. And I just go back to the point that in the NFL, it's hard to win. You never apologize for winning a football game, especially ones against division rivals. The Raiders could be 1-10. It's still tough to beat a 1-10 team in the NFL if they see you twice, if they have familiarity with playing you. And this Raiders team does. This Raiders team, like I said to begin the show, beat the Chiefs back on Christmas, and Kansas City hasn't lost since. That was their awakening back in 2023. This can't happen again. And today there were moments. There were moments where it looked like a bad Raiders team was going to find a way to put Kansas City on the ropes for the first time this year. And you may ask yourself, how do the Chiefs look more dominant against the Niners team in the Bay Area than they do against the Raiders, who only have 2 wins this year, who have struggled this year offensively, are missing a lot of guys, not really much of a running game? How does that happen? Well, it's the NFL. Like I said, it's hard to win games in the NFL, and you should never feel sorry about winning 7 of these in a row. And you saw probably the broadcast at the end of the game show the remaining, what, is it 11 games, 10 games left? Maybe it was a little bit short. Maybe it was like the next 5 or 6 games. That's favorable for Kansas City. It's very favorable. You get Tampa Bay at home without likely Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. You get Denver, Bo Nix versus Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead Stadium. You do get Buffalo on the road, and I'm sure right now that's the betting favorite for the first Chiefs loss of the year. But after that, you get Carolina, you get the Raiders again, you get Denver. They've set themselves up so nicely in these first 7 games. They've allowed themselves a cushion they simply just didn't have last year. They didn't have this type of cushion where you look up. They're 7-0 and Baltimore's 5-3, and I think a lot of Chiefs fans would tell you that Baltimore is the team they are most worried about going into January. They have a massive lead on Baltimore at this point, not only because of their win-loss record, but because of the tiebreaker. They've got that. No, Houston and Buffalo are not far behind them, but you feel like come postseason time, a healthier Chiefs team, and with this defense and home field advantage, you like that matchup. With all the adversity, you've heard us talk on numerous Red and Gold postgame shows about adversity, overcoming that. And every single week they seem to do so. That interception that Patrick Mahomes had, the ball getting knocked up into the air, his arm getting hit. A team that doesn't know how to handle adversity, or really just have as good of a defense that the Chiefs do, that could be their backbreaker. Penalties left and right. Wanya Morris couldn't contain Max Crosby. You're not running the ball as effectively. That could be the backbreaker. And this defense goes out and stonewalls that Raiders rushing attack, and the Raiders get negative yardage on a drive that began inside of Kansas City's 10-yard line. Like, that's a team that you just trust with the season on the line. When the games start to get colder, when you face better teams, this team knows how to handle adversity. And again, the scariest part for the rest of the league is everybody knows they're not playing their best football. They know they're not 100% healthy, and that's going to be coming. You've already got 5-6 years of this on a playbook. You've got this in the script where the Chiefs start to play a lot better on the back half of their schedule and leading into the postseason. When those games start to get ice cold and the pressure starts to mount, this team plays its best football. So the fact they've won their first 7 games, and a handful of them against playoff teams, you can start to dream about what they may look like come January. And today was just another example of this team finding a way to win. And at one point, it's 27-13 late in the fourth quarter. It's a 2-score lead. And then you realize that shortly before the third quarter came to an end, the Raiders had a chance to take the lead and had about as perfect as a drive setup as you could ask for against this Kansas City offense. And the defense makes plays. Patrick Mahomes made enough plays. Travis Kelce made enough plays. All of that was important in a 27-20 win over the Las Vegas Raiders. Kansas City now 7-0 to begin the 2024 campaign. They'll get an extra day of rest this week because they won't play until Monday Night Football back at home at Arrowhead Stadium against Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to go to the phone lines for the first time tonight and hear from Kyle. Kyle, you're on the Red and Gold postgame show.
Hey, thank you for taking my call like always, and good show like always. First of all, my first point I want to make is with Hopkins there, I've noticed in the game, Hopkins only had 1 catch, but you look at Travis Kelce, he had 12 receptions for 90 yards and close to 100 yards, and that left Kelce open because I noticed the defense was on Hopkins. So the defense was focusing more on Hopkins and less on Kelce, and I thought that was huge. And the offense really was really a lot better today. I think this was the best game for the offense. My second point I want to make is that there's what was the national media saying? What's wrong with Mahomes? What's wrong with Kelce? I think we can put that to bed now. Mahomes, I think, had his best game all year long, and he just had injuries, and the injuries was the big factor. But now with Hopkins, Mahomes looked a lot more comfortable, and he looked like the old Mahomes. So I don't think there's anything wrong with Mahomes. And thirdly, my last and third point is Baltimore lost today, and the Bengals lost today. I mean, I don't think the Bengals are going to go to the postseason this year. But the Chiefs, I think, are 3 or 4 games for the 1 seed, and I said it last week. I think the Chiefs have clinched this division. Now it's just fighting for the 1 seed. I'll listen off the air, but thank you for taking my call.
I appreciate the phone call, Kyle. And, yeah, I think at this point you look at the AFC West. I mean, if you're a believer in Denver, I won't fight you. I think Sean Payton's a great head coach, but I'll take my chances with Patrick Mahomes against Bo Nix. I still think this Denver team is a little bit of time away from seriously being able to contend with the Kansas City Chiefs. And even though last year Denver won in Mile High, that was a game where I think Patrick Mahomes had the flu or something like that, and it was freezing out, and there were some bad drops in the game. And the Chiefs, as we know last year, just didn't play their best football in the middle portion of their schedule. But, yeah, I would say, Kyle, that this team absolutely should be able to clinch the AFC West early, and they might get a really good opportunity to do that if they take care of business against Tampa Bay and Denver in the next 2 home games, putting them at 9-0, and then you know, even if Denver wins a couple of games here and there, they're going to be a handful of games back of Kansas City, and you might be able to coast with your division in December and leading into January. Now, for the 1 seed, you still got to worry about Buffalo. You still got to worry about Houston. You still got to worry about Baltimore having a surge. But really, to me, I'm more so focused on Buffalo contending Kansas City for the 1 seed because they're 6-2. That's not far behind Kansas City's 7-0 record. And Buffalo gets to play the Chiefs in Orchard Park here in, I think, 3 weeks is the exact date. So 3 weeks from now, you might have an undefeated Kansas City team and a Buffalo team that has 7 or 8 wins. Right, so that could be the momentum flipping at that point if Buffalo is able to get it done. But as for the division, I mean, I think most Chiefs fans at this point, you know, they just go into every single year expecting them to clinch the division early because the other teams, they just don't match up well. They really don't. These other teams have such a difficult time putting it together for 2 games against the Chiefs every single year. Now, we saw last year, the Raiders win in Arrowhead. Denver wins in Mile High. But then when you play him the second time, or you play him the first time, you just don't have the best game plan, or you just flat out lose to a far more talented team. And that's why the Chiefs, year in, year out, whether it was with Alex Smith after the years of Peyton Manning, but whether it was with the last couple years of Alex Smith or Patrick Mahomes, he just kind of chalked it up in September that this team was going to be able to win the division. I think the last time that personally I thought the Chiefs were in danger of losing an AFC West title was when Phillip Rivers came in with the Chargers, when Eric Berry returned from his heel injury, wasn't it? And it was Thursday Night Football, and there was that 2-point conversion to win the game at the very end. Mike Williams, I believe it was. And I think the Chargers leapfrogged Kansas City in that game. But right after that, the Chargers kind of collapsed a little bit, and the Chiefs did not. And that's what we see time and time and again. We saw this with the Raiders today. A perfect example, right? They have the interception. They set themselves up inside the 10, and they get negative yards on that drive. Stuffed at the line, stuffed at the line, stuffed at the line. Gardner Minshew sacked. Gifted an opportunity, can't do anything with it. Dylan's reacting to something. I think it's a football game. But what I would say about that game, further than that point, is that you have another moment after the Chiefs go up 20-13, and Gardner Minshew fumbles when trying to scramble for some extra yardage. Gifted a chance because you stop the Chiefs at the goal line. They're forced to settle for 3, and Gardner Minshew fumbles. You get the ball back, 27-13. It's what these AFC West teams do to Kansas City all the time. They just cough up the ball, have the bad play, and it burns them every single time. I'm now told in my ear the play that Dylan was reacting to. Apparently, Jaden Daniels just had a Hail Mary to beat the Bears. It was quite the reaction. And, yeah, I'm now seeing it in live time right now. Pretty ridiculous. Sucks to be a Bears fan right now. And I'll probably have more time to look at those highlights as we hit a quick break here. We still got some callers on the phone lines. We'll get to them after this short break on the Red and Gold Postgame Show, brought to you by Boda Box Wine. You can kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box is a premium boxed wine that wins with wine critics. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. You're listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. is brought to you by Andy's Frozen Custard. Enjoy a treat and give to a great cause. The 87 Concrete, crafted by Travis Kelce himself, consists of vanilla frozen custard, Oreo, cookie dough, and cream caramel. A portion of the proceeds go to support Travis Kelce's 87 and Running Foundation. Top your day with a smile at Andy's. Chiefs get it done this afternoon in Vegas, 27-20. They move to 7-0 on their 2024 campaign. Patrick Mahomes did have another interception in this game, though it was mainly because his arm was hit. The ball got knocked up into the air, and it was a pretty easy interception for the Raiders secondary. But other than that, one of his more efficient games of the season. 27 of 38, 262 yards, 6.9 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, just that one pick, a quarterback rating of 96.6. And he was able to dish it out to a lot of different receivers. For guys that had a target today, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, Samaje Perine, DeAndre Hopkins, Noah Gray, McCole Hardman, Carson Steele, Kareem Hunt, and Jody Fortson, who unfortunately did have a rough-looking injury at the very end of that game on the onside kick that the Chiefs recovered to ice the game. We'll probably hear from Andy Reid in the next segment about the status of Jody Fortson, which that's just unfortunately been a theme of his career in Kansas City, is having a lower body injury that has sidelined him for an extended period of time. So hoping for the best for Jody Fortson. And just more bad news to go over when it comes to Chiefs players and dealing with injuries, right? Dealing with bad injuries. It's not sidelining them for just a week or two. It seems to be pretty significant injuries that week in, week out, this Chiefs team deals with, whether it's offensively, defensively, or on special teams. We do have a little bit of audio to play for you. Patrick Mahomes caught up with Melanie Collins at the end of the game. Here is that piece of audio.
Patrick, congratulations on the win. You told us this week you knew this fight would be a fight every single snap. What did it take from you and your team today to get this win?
Yeah, just resiliency. Obviously, in that second half, at the beginning of it, we were kind of down bad. I get the tip interception. The defense gets a huge goal line stop and just kind of changed the momentum of the half. And I thought the guys ran the ball well in the second half, and we found a way to win. It's always a tough battle whenever you go to a divisional opponent.
You're the fastest player in history now to 30,000 passing yards. You got Travis Kelce going today on National Tight Ends Day with a touchdown. How would you just assess the offensive operation today?
I thought we did a great job. You know, obviously the backed up situations we got to be better at in the interception. But other than that, I thought we moved the ball well. We ran it. We threw it. We got D-Hop involved a little bit. I mean, and you see he's going to have a chance to have a big role in this offense. We're going to keep expanding it as the year goes on.
Yeah, what did you see from him today in this offense? What did you like?
I liked a lot. I mean, obviously he got a few big catches, but even some that I didn't throw to him, I went back and looked on the tablet, and he was open. And you get that guy man-to-man, you got to give him chances to make plays.
Thanks for the time today.
Yeah, appreciate you.
And that was Patrick Mahomes with Melanie Collins after the game. I'll be a little bit honest with you guys. I'm surprised that we didn't get some form of a puppet celebration for Patrick Mahomes today. I'm really surprised for that matter. Now, maybe if he was, let's say, 35 of 40 with 450 yards and 5 touchdowns, he might have been more inclined to do so. But this Chiefs team, I think, really just doesn't, I guess, the best way to say it probably, doesn't give it back in a way that could burn them later. Right? You still got to face the Raiders again. Maybe that's when we could see the celebration. But they usually let the other teams do the talking, and then they can just handle it on the field. That's what Patrick Mahomes said about that puppet incident. It'll get handled when it gets handled. And they win today, and that's what he meant by it. You just win the game, you move on. We're only worried about getting W's and not taking shots at the other team. But I don't know if you heard this on the broadcast or coming back from break. Travis Kelce was caught on the mic talking trash to Jack Jones, wasn't it? Who is very much known for talking a lot of trash in the secondary. And after Travis Kelce had that big third down reception to extend the drive and set up the Xavier Worthy touchdown, all he was saying is all that talk. All that talk. And that's just the way this Chiefs team is seemingly handled business. I go back to last year, I think it was. Yeah, I believe it was last year. If not, would have been the year before that. But it involved Justin Reid. I want to say it was last year. I'm going off the top of my head. But Justin Reid took a shot at the Cincinnati Bengals receivers. And lo and behold, those receivers had a really big game. And Andy Reid had, a meeting with Justin Reid, probably going over something along the lines of, hey, we just don't do that here. We don't give bulletin board material to other teams. We capitalize off of those teams giving us bulletin board material. And against all these rival opponents, whether it be in division or out of division, leading up to the Super Bowl, the Chiefs just really handle it on the field. They might do some trash talking on the field, but they take what happens, they bring it into their locker room, they just kind of sit on it, and then when they start playing well, they'll let you know that was a mistake. And that's what I think we saw today against the Las Vegas Raiders. Patrick Mahomes looked efficient. That one interception, I think that was more so because the pocket just broke down. And I do want to talk about later on in this show of the left tackle struggles for the Chiefs. And to be honest with you, I don't know where you go from here. Because you benched Kingsley Suamataia after the way he looked against Trey Hendrickson. And don't get me wrong, that was a worse performance than what we saw today from Wanya Morris. But Wanya Morris was not good. Not good whatsoever against Max Crosby. Elite pass rusher, but you're the left tackle of a team that's going for a three-peat. You've got to be better on that side. We gave Donovan Smith and Orlando Brown Jr. before that a lot of heat when they didn't play well. You're going to get heat if you don't play well at left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm sure Andy Reid addressed that in his post-game press conference. So let's hit a quick break. You're listening to the Red and Gold post-game show brought to you by Boda Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda is the premium boxed wine that wins with wine critics. Boda this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Vineyards, Manteca, California. When we return, we're going to hear from Andy Reid after a Chiefs 27-20 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. That's coming up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box is the premium boxed wine that wins with wine critics. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. Well, Andy Reid took the podium for a short time today after the Chiefs' 27-20 victory. Had a couple of things that he touched on, DeAndre Hopkins and his performance, the goal line stand they had on 4th and goal in the third quarter after the interception. Also touched on the third down success the offense had today, which we didn't really get into that too much, but third down efficiency, it was phenomenal for Patrick Mahomes today, and it wasn't like they were always faced with 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. The running game didn't really do much today. There was a lot of attempts by Kareem Hunt, but usually it was only picking up anywhere from 2 to 3 yards. Didn't really have any burst runs today. So a lot of 3rd and 5 and plus. And Patrick Mahomes found a lot of different guys well beyond the marker, whether that be Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Watson, Noah Gray, Xavier Worthy. He spread the ball around as he usually does. But let's hear from Andy Reid in his opening statement after the Chiefs' 27-20 victory over the Raiders.
All right. Appreciate our fans and the support that we had from them today. It's always good when you go on the road, you're able to have all that red up there. Couple of things on the injury front. Najee Johnson has a concussion, and then Jody Fortson hurt his right knee. We'll do some work on that, see what that is. Other than that, we're pretty good. Pat got his ankle rolled up on a little bit, but he was fine as it went on. I thought defensively we really stepped up with the five sacks. I thought Pennell, Drew, Nick Bolton, I thought those guys played really well, exceptional throughout the day. And I'm neglecting the rest of the guys who I thought also played well. I thought we did a nice job defensively. Offensively, there were some real good things that took place. Pat had a nice day, 27-38 for over 250 yards, which a couple TDs thrown in there, which was a positive. Trav had a big day, 10 receptions for 90 yards, and it was good to get DeAndre in there in the limited reps that he had in practice. Couple catches, one on 3rd down, which was a big catch for us. Kareem was 21 of 59, I believe it was, and there wasn't a lot of room in there, but that's okay. He pounds it in there, and normally he's going forward, so that's a good thing. And then we're on 3rd downs. We're 12 of 16 in the red zone, 3 for 4. So those are always good stats to throw out there when they're positive. Time's yours.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Andy Reid went over Kareem Hunt and his production, said not a lot of room there. And the Chiefs' offensive line has been so stellar in the interior. You talk about Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. But the tackle position, more specifically from the left side with Wanya Morris, it was an issue today. And as I said before the break, that's something I do want to touch on in one of our next few segments, and certainly with Matt Derrick, who we'll talk to later on in the show of ChiefsDigest.com. But today, I wasn't too pleased with what I saw from certain players on the offensive line, and maybe a reason why Kareem Hunt didn't have his traditional game where he can get anywhere from 80 to 95 yards on the ground. 21 carries, 59 yards. That's a lot of hard running yards. I think a lot of physical yards, mainly because he was met at the line of the scrimmage numerous times a day where the offensive line couldn't really get the push off the snap. We do want to hear what Andy Reid had to say about DeAndre Hopkins and his snap count. Was that about what he was looking for? And what did he think overall about number 8's performance?
Yeah, listen, I thought it was good. He wanted to be in there, which is a positive, and I understand. So he'll get more chances the next game.
You ended up playing quite a bit. That more than you anticipated, or was that
No, it was about that. He was in on a few runs and a few other passes.
Yeah, I would say when you get a limited snap count, you just hope to make a big play or two for a team like this and root to a win. And that's something he didn't really get to experience a lot for Tennessee this year, whether he was starting or not. But Kansas City went to him in 2 big-time spots. Andy Reid said that was about the snap count that he expected him to have in Week 1, with the team at least. and then he's going to get a lot more involved moving forward. And it's not going to surprise me at all with an extra day because of Monday Night Football if DeAndre Hopkins has a much bigger role against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next Monday night. He also had the chance to talk about, in my opinion, the biggest play of the game. It was our play of the game, brought to you by Central Bank of the Midwest. That goal line stand. 3 straight runs that were stuffed by the Chiefs' defensive line, and then a sack of Gardner Minshew. It was all well done by Steve Spagnuolo. They didn't let the Raiders get any sort of movement up front, and Gardner Minshew didn't have any time to throw on that final snap on 4th and goal. What did Andy Reid have to make about those 4 plays?
Andy, what's it take to have that kind of goal line stand, and what does it do beyond just holding points?
Unbelievable. Offensively, we put the defense in a bad position, but we held up as a defense. We came out and put our foot down and did a nice job there. And that was important.
What's even more impressive about it is that the defense was just on the field. Like, the offense had come out, there was the penalty on special teams, there were back-to-back penalties on Wanye Morris, and then you've got the interception, where I think it was Trey Smith's guy kind of pushed him back into the backfield a little bit, and Mahomes might have seen somebody like Worthy. I didn't know exactly who he was intending to throw it to because by the time the screen had panned that way, the ball was just coming down like a pop-up to Marig, I think it was. So I'm not really sure if somebody was open or he was just trying to challenge somebody deep, maybe hope to get a pass interference call. But that was an all-around bad drive, and this defense had just done a good job getting the ball back to the offense. Then they get run back out there, and it's inside the 5-yard line, and they come up big 4 consecutive times to completely flip that game. Now back to the offense. Andy Reid did talk about the success that the Chiefs had on 3rd down, and they were very, very efficient today. The Raiders really couldn't get off the field. Overall, they were 12 of 16 on 3rd down compared to the Raiders' 6 of 13. Another big reason why this game ended up in favor of Kansas City. Here's what Andy Reid had to say on that.
No, well, listen, I thought Pat had a good day. I thought the guys were running good routes. The protection was good. When it wasn't, he moved around and made some plays. So I think Nags had a great plan on 3rd down. And, that's the guys believe in what we're doing there, and that's a positive thing.
The beauty of the 3rd down efficiency there is it wasn't a lot of hard-earned 3rd down yardage. He had that one scramble, which I'm sure we'll hear the audio of a little bit later on in the show, but a lot of it was just a clean pocket, a great route, and Mahomes hitting somebody in stride or just finding the soft spot in the zone. That's what it felt like, at least in the first half. When this offense was clicking, it was just guys being wide open, nobody within 5 to 6 yards of them. And that's the beauty of having 3rd down efficiency like that. You're not having to run around, throw against your body, rely on a jump ball to move the sticks. You just have a great game plan. And Matt Nagy had a good game plan today, and Andy Reid had a good game plan, and Patrick Mahomes was very, very efficient outside of that one interception, which, was deterred basically by his arm getting hit by a defensive lineman for the Las Vegas Raiders. And lastly, Andy Reid talked about the challenge of playing the Raiders and what it's like to go up against them.
Yeah, no, they do a good job. Their head coach likes to play us, and those guys, they get fired up, and I'm glad our guys were able to answer it.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Okay, good, thanks.
And that was Andy Reid after the 27-20 win for Kansas City. They moved to 7-0. He's not wrong. Antonio Pierce did go on a podcast in the offseason saying they had the Mahomes rules because after one win at Arrowhead Stadium, he clearly had the blueprint on how to beat Kansas City, though he moves to 1-1 today. And another loss in Vegas against the Chiefs. The Chiefs don't lose very often to the Raiders. And the last time the Chiefs lost to the Raiders was the last time the Chiefs lost, period. Back on Christmas Day. It is 2 months away, roughly, a little under 2 months away from being a full calendar year. I doubt we'll get to that point. I would love to have my fingers crossed and say the Chiefs will be undefeated by Christmas Day against the Steelers this year. But the fact they're 7-0 with multiple gutsy road wins against good playoff teams in the AFC, it just shows you how well coached and how prepared this group is every single week, even with all the adversity that they have gone through. But again, that was Andy Reid. You missed any of that, you can always check it out on our podcast page after the show. We'll take a quick break. You are listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show, brought to you by Boda Box Wine on Sports Radio 810 WHB. was the Andy Reid call of the game, which is brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction. You can make the right call as well by visiting shamrockroofer.com. Shamrock Roofing and Construction, one call does it all. We just heard from Andy Reid and his post-game thoughts on the Chiefs' 27-20 win over the Las Vegas Raiders. Now it's time to hear from the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, and lots that he went over today with the interception that he threw, his ability to connect with DeAndre Hopkins a few times, and his snap count, also the success they had on third down, and just overall and being able to put up 27 points on the road. He talked about the rivalry between the Chiefs and the Raiders, Travis Kelce and his 90-yard performance with a touchdown as well, and also being the fastest to get to 30,000 passing yards in his career. Yet another brilliant day for Patrick Mahomes in his still, I would say, young NFL career. Hopefully still lots of years down the road, and hopefully lots of wins against the Raiders like today, where you really don't need to sweat it out that much down the road. Even though it was a 7-point win, Chiefs led by 2 scores late in the game. But let's kick things off with what Patrick Mahomes had to say about the interception that led to a great goal line stand by the Chiefs defense. Here was his thoughts. Yeah, it just felt like on that moment, there feels like a lot of times this year and in the 7 wins the Chiefs have had, you can point to one thing the defense did that kind of just swung the momentum, right? Just having that big stop on a 4th down, a turnover, a 3-and-out they forced. They always seem to have that one play throughout the game that just completely flips the momentum. And Patrick Mahomes, of course, giving credit to the defense and their goal line stand late in the 3rd quarter. Now, on the offensive side of things, he talked about DeAndre Hopkins getting the ball to him and his overall snap count in this game against the Raiders.
I thought he did a great job. Obviously, 3rd down, he had the big catch early in the game, and then he had a couple other big plays. I missed him on the one corner route early, but still got open. And then as I looked back at the tablet, there was a couple times where in man coverage, he was just really working and winning. Even the touchdown to Trav, I threw. If you look back on his side, he's open too for a touchdown there. And so now that you see that. I mean, obviously I know the type of player he is, but you see that on the field. It shows that if they're going to play man coverage against him, he's going to get open and have to give him the chances to go out there and make plays. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's high-level stuff just because it was zone coverage. They kind of were in the right spot. He pulled up in the right window. Stuff you see Trav do a lot. You see Juju do a lot. And I was able to throw the ball, and I've kind of talked about it a little bit. He has a good body language, and he runs routes. And so you can kind of tell what he's going to do before he does it. And so we'd only practice that play, I think, once, maybe twice. And for 3rd down in that situation, for him to run it and be in the right position, it shows that he's going to fit in perfectly in this offense.
Yeah, I liked how the broadcast brought up that DeAndre Hopkins was coming in early, staying later than everybody else. I think Andy Reid was telling, Trent Green and Kevin Harlan that. But, DeAndre Hopkins is going to fit in very nicely in this offense. And the fact that he was utilized so early in this game kind of gives you a sneak peek at what you can maybe expect later on in the year. The closer we get to November and the end of November and then December and the closer you get to January, it's just going to be a week-by-week thing where you can see a little bit of progression here and there. And hopefully by the time January gets there, you're looking at a very, very lethal threat for that offense in DeAndre Hopkins because you can pair him alongside hopefully Hollywood Brown at that point, and a much more experienced Xavier Worthy after a full rookie season under his belt. Now, on top of DeAndre Hopkins' performance, the offense as a whole was great in this game. Travis Kelce was great, more so throwing the ball through the air, not Travis Kelce, just the Chiefs' offense in general. Running the ball, they weren't that effective, but I did see this tweet from Jesse Newell, who, of course, covers the Chiefs for the Kansas City Star. We talked about Wanya Morris and some of the struggles that he had today, but Jawan Taylor on the right side, he was fantastic. So this is from Next Gen Stats. Jawan Taylor did not allow a single pressure across 28 blocking matchups against Max Crosby. 25 of 28 of them were one-on-one matchups. Crosby failed to generate a pressure on any of his 41 pass rushes, the most pass rushes without recording a pressure in this game, or in a game this season. The last time Crosby was held without a pressure was Week 9 of 2022. So overall, even though the offensive line couldn't really open up any holes for Kareem Hunt, they were great at protecting Patrick Mahomes in this game, at least for the most part. Wanya Morris, not so much, gave up the sack, was flagged multiple times for holding, though I did think some of them were a little bit ticky-tack. They still were called, so not a very good game for Wanya Morris against Max Crosby and the Raiders. But this offense was able to move the ball. They were able to pick up a lot of third down conversions, 12 of 16 in the game, converting third down. So that's going to be a huge recipe of success for this offense, especially when you get guys like DeAndre Hopkins a little bit more involved. But here's what Patrick Mahomes had to say on that.
I think guys just did their job. I don't think it was one or another. I mean, we ran it sometimes. I ran it sometimes. We threw the ball when we needed to throw the ball. That defense has a lot of different coverages, and guys were able to recognize the coverages and execute at a high level. And then, I mean, I thought we played a pretty good football game offensively. Obviously, the pick hurt us there in the second half. But other than that, I thought guys did a good job. We got to clean up some of the penalties, the turnovers, obviously. But I think we're building and going in the right direction. Yeah, I mean, just being able to find guys, getting them open in windows, make the throws. I thought guys came in with the right mindset. I think now if we can just kind of connect on some of those deeper passes downfield, that it'll really expand the zones that the teams are playing against us. And I felt good about how we played today. They have a good defense, and I thought we did a good job executing at a high level and getting the win at the end of the day.
Another thing Patrick Mahomes can feel pretty good about is another win against the Raiders after all the trash they talked in the offseason, the Mahomes rules, the Kermit the Frog puppet, and also being able to beat the Raiders in Allegiant Stadium with a lot of Chiefs fans in attendance. I don't know how many of you out there had the chance to see the broadcast from the very beginning, but when they first panned that crowd, it looked like a complete home game for Kansas City. Lots of red in the stands. I know it's usually going to stand out when it's a stadium of black seats and black jerseys, but there were a lot of Chiefs fans, as there usually are in Vegas. What did Patrick Mahomes have to think about the support today?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a rivalry. It goes back further than anyone on that football field. It's no matter what the records are, you come into this football game, you know it's going to be a fight. You know it's going to be a fight every single snap. There's going to be no give up. And they have a lot of guys on that team that have a lot of pride in playing at home and playing in this stadium. And so we did a good job of executing. They made some plays, we made some plays, and at the end of the day, we found a way to get a win. Yeah, Chiefs Kingdom travels well. I mean, everywhere. But they've done a great job of traveling here to Vegas, and it's exciting to see whenever you can get into a stadium and you're in an opponent stadium. You just see red everywhere, and it shows the support that we have and we've gotten throughout my entire career. And it's a special place, and I don't take it for granted because it costs money to travel, it costs money to come to games, and people want to show that they support us, and we're going to show that same support to them when we're in the community.
You know, when I was in San Francisco last week and was at the game in Santa Clara, there still was a ton of Chiefs fans there. So it's not just against the Raiders, as you all know by now. It's not just against the Chargers in L.A. It's everywhere they play now. There is just a large population of Chiefs fans that show up, and why would you not? When they're 7-0 and going for a three-peat, they get it done once again today. And one of those big reasons as to why they got it done was Travis Kelce. And Patrick Mahomes was asked if Kelce, after this performance, brought up National Tight End Day at all.
Not at all. I mean, he's like the least. I guess if you ask anyone on the team, they'd want to score Travis to score a touchdown more than he would want to score a touchdown. That's just the type of guy he is. And so he was able to score the touchdown there. It was a tight window throw. He made a big-time catch. He had a good game. But I don't think he mentioned National Tight End Day one time. So, I mean, he's all about ball and all about winning. And I think you saw that the last game last year whenever he could have got 1,000 yards and he sat himself out even though he wanted him to play. He's just all about winning at the end of the day, and that's what makes him such a special player.
Yeah, that's kind of the great thing to have this late in your career and really for a long time now with Travis Kelce. I mean, when he was in his first couple years into the league, there were moments that, made it seem like he would get caught up in that. There were the unsportsmanlike penalties. He was a bit of a hothead at time. He's got the reality show. Like, everything would fit the profile of a guy that, hey, I care about getting the ball. I care about getting the targets. And that happens in the NFL a lot. Look about how many receivers out there complain to the media after the game about not being involved. Travis Kelce does not care what his stat line looks like at the end of the day as long as they win. And if they don't win, he will blame himself for not being a bigger factor in that game. He is a selfless teammate. As Patrick Mahomes just said, he doesn't care if he's getting into the end zone or not. All he wants to do is find a way to win with this team. And if that means him being more involved, less involved, a medium amount of involved, that's fine by him, especially at this point in his career. Now, for Patrick Mahomes, another milestone that was reached today was becoming the fastest to 30,000 passing yards at this point in his career. What did he think about that?
30,000 passing yards.
Yeah, no, it was. I didn't even know about that until after the game and them telling me. But obviously, an amazing accomplishment. It speaks to the organization I'm in. It speaks to the people that I have around me, the coaches I have around me, and the players. And it takes everybody. And I think just being able to execute and get to that milestone is awesome. But we have a lot more to do. And we've had a great start to this season. We want to keep building on that.
I mean, every single year, there's some stat line that he breaks, whether it be passing yards, touchdowns, win total. He just never stops setting records. And I do wonder, when years down the road he hangs it up, how many of his stats, his records, are going to be unbreakable. Because what he's done since 2018 is nothing short of remarkable. Now, with all that adversity we talked about, injuries that have happened to this team, Patrick Mahomes had a chance to talk about the next man up mentality that this group has on both sides of the ball, really, which they've dealt with all season long. Here was his thoughts.
I think the biggest thing about the defense and about this entire team is that whenever your number's called, the guy's going to step up and make the play. And that goes for the whole entire team, but especially the defense in situations like today. I mean, they had a good drive to start the game, and our defense, we lost all the momentum, and they were in a bad situation, and that whole entire unit stepped up when their number was called to make a big-time stop. And that's what it takes from our great football teams. It takes greatness from everybody. It can't be one guy. And that's what's made us so great for so long throughout my careers. It's not all about me. It's not all about Trav. It's about this entire team. That's what makes it so special.
Yeah, if you look at all these star players on Kansas City, you'll kind of hear a lot of the same thing. It's not about me. It's about the team. All we want to do is keep winning, and that's why you don't really hear any drama within the Chiefs organization. Not this year, not last year. It's a group that really comes together, and even new guys that come in, DeAndre Hopkins, they mesh really well with everybody. They just jump right in, and it's not too much of an issue. It's a seamless transition for any new guys that would be coming in. But Patrick Mahomes doesn't really care too much about it. It's an honor, but this is more of a team thing for him when breaking those records. He also had the chance to talk about the final touchdown and what he saw on that pass to Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, without giving away all our secrets, we knew the coverage that they were going to play, and we knew that guy was going to be going over there to get to Travis. And if he went over there enough, we were going to get back to the backside to D-Hop. So it was a good play call, and we executed and got a touchdown.
And that was really the final dagger that this team had. I know the Raiders drove down the field, and they scored before the 2-minute warning, but to go up by 14 there with such little time left, that felt like the dagger into the hearts of the Raiders in front of their home fans at Allegiant Stadium. Now, one of the reasons this offense did look so efficient, well, they only turned the ball over once. And yes, you would love it to be 0 times every single game, but the fact the defense came through for this group after a bad turnover deep into their own territory, they were really able to just dominate this game from the get-go, have control of this game. Even though they trailed by 3 points in the first half, his ability, Patrick Mahomes that is, to scramble around and take care of the football in this one was really one of the bigger reasons, one of the main reasons why this offense was able to put up 27 points and stack another win against the Raiders in Las Vegas.
I thought I could get him, man. You just never know. No, it was I was scrambling downfield. I knew I was downfield, but the guy was open. But maybe I pump fake. I wasn't gonna be able to juke him. I was like, maybe he'll jump or something. But the guy behind me got me, so I got to be a little bit more careful with the football as I'm getting downfield. Yeah, I thought they did a great job. Obviously, like I said, we cleaned some of the penalties up, and they have a great game. I thought they did a great job pass protecting. They did a great job when we called on them in the second half to run the football. I mean, that night, I think it was 19-play drive. We were just running the football, getting 5 to 6 yards of carry, and they've done a great job this entire year of being able to do that. And we're going to keep building as an offense. Hopefully, like I said, we can hit some of these deep shots. It'll take some pressure off them to be able to run the football with lighter boxes. But whenever we call their number, they step up to the challenge. And I think that we have a lot of great guys up there that are getting better every week.
All right, that was Patrick Mahomes after a 27-20 win over the Las Vegas Raiders. They moved to a perfect 7-0 on the 2024 season. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk with I think we'll have Matt Derrick at some point on in the show, but at least for now, let's take a quick break and we'll reevaluate where we're at with the show. Coming up next on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Solutions, your trusted locally owned IT partner since 1985, providing IT expertise, services, and solutions to help your business grow. You can also make the right choice today by going to choicesolutions.com. Well, though we didn't get too many players at the podium, one player we did get the chance to hear from was George Karlaftis. He had a big performance today for the Chiefs off the edge, and really all season long. He has kind of been one of those underrated pieces for this Chiefs defense. You hear a lot about Chris Jones. You hear a lot about Trent McDuffie. But George Karlaftis has had one hell of a year for Kansas City's defense. And today, multiple times just using that motor. That was something we heard coming out of Purdue in the draft. This was a guy that had a motor. And if you had to go up against him for all 4 quarters, it was going to be a long afternoon. Even if you did find a way to keep him in check, and the way Jawan Taylor kept Max Crosby in check today, you were going to be completely beaten up and worn out by the time it was done. So for our locker room report, brought to you by Twin Peaks, here is George Karlaftis and his thoughts after a Chiefs 27-20 win over the Raiders.
George, what goes into a goal line stand like that, and what's it feel like once you pull it off?
We worked that, all week, and we worked that all season, and, we've came short a couple times, like if you go back to Cincinnati and stuff like that. So putting it all together, it's great, we take pride in working together as a group, front end, back end, everything like that. So for our morale, for our defense is huge.
And to that point, do you feel something change almost in the game when you're coming off the field after doing that?
Yeah, the energy a little bit for sure, but it's always the next play and worry about that.
You took away their running game. How valuable is it to make them one-dimensional?
Yeah, for us, being able to stop the run, that's the primary goal every single week. As a front seven, as a defense, we keep them and we make them one-dimensional. That's where we want it to be. So
when Patrick threw that interception near the goal line, what did he say coming to the sideline? And you guys actually bailed him out.
I didn't hear him, but we knew what we had to do, and we did that. So
George, you had a couple tackles on that stand. What play stands out to you the most about what you needed to do to get that done?
That fourth down, just when they're running it, and you can stop the run, and then they go to pass it, and the quarterback tries to scramble a little bit, you get them down. They're like, oh, what can we do now? So, just being able to do that and work together as a defense, that was huge for us.
Okay, thanks, George.
I guess.
And that was George Karlaftis after the game, and he was the Locker Room Report brought to you by Twin Peaks.
The Chiefs Locker Room Report is brought to you by Twin Peaks. No one does football like Twin Peaks. Whatever your preference, they have everything from tequila cocktails and an extensive bourbon category to top shelf spirits and cocktails served over ice balls. Local craft beers and handcrafted whiskey cocktails round out an adventurous drink menu, second to none. And don't forget about their 29-degree man-sized drafts at Twin Peaks.
You are listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com get his thoughts on the game. That's coming up next on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Greenlight Dispensary, the unofficial sponsor of Kansas City's favorite football team. Look for the Greenlight Stadium flyover banners at your favorite games this fall. GreenlightDispensary.com. And we're going to hop on the phone lines and talk with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He's brought to you by Cap One Lending. The Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending is the exclusive loan that helps you pay your home off in less than half the time and gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to CapOneLending.com. Well, Matt, appreciate you coming on the show so late. It's another win for Kansas City. It's another win against the Raiders in Las Vegas. So I guess let's just kick it off with the overall takeaways. What did you see in this 27-20 win over the Raiders?
I mean, Jack, it seems like it's just more and more the Chiefs doing what they do. A tough, kind of hard-fought, grinded-out victory, both offensively and defensively. You just do enough to win. Defensively, I mean, the 20 points I don't think is really respective of the performance that the defense put up today. It was again, a really impressive effort. But I think the most important item for the Chiefs, at least for this week, if we're going forward, is the return of Travis Kelce. I mean, he's not washed. He's making sure everybody knows he's still there. He's still a Hall of Famer. And maybe this is an indication of just what happens when you've got somebody like DeAndre Hopkins on the field at the same time drawing some attention. Maybe it's going to make things easier for Travis Kelce going forward, or maybe this was just, hey, this is what Travis Kelce does against the Raiders. So let's face it, it's not the first time he's carved them up on a day like this.
You know, another guy that certainly isn't washed at all because he had a few snaps, but did a lot with those few snaps, was DeAndre Hopkins. As you pointed out, Matt, I thought it was very telling that on the first third down the Chiefs had, DeAndre Hopkins is out there, he runs his route, and Patrick Mahomes finds him. Is that sort of maybe a little bit of a sneak peek into what we're going to see the rest of the way? That's a lot of what the Chiefs are going to try to do is get the ball to DeAndre Hopkins in a big spot. We're probably just going to see him out there on the field a lot more than he was today.
Yeah, we are going to see him going forward a lot more. And, and I do think that the Chiefs are planning to just take these 11 games between now and the playoffs as just kind of a tune-up for DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, they would love to get him assimilated into the offense as quickly as possible, but I think they're going to see this as just an opportunity to put in a little bit of the offense for him each and every week and kind of grow it week by week. Maybe he's going to handle just being handed the playbook and say, hey, here's all 400 pages, DeAndre, just get going. But I think they're going to do it a little bit more slowly. I think they're going to kind of build the packages for him each week, and we kind of saw that today. I mean, certainly it looked like there was just a very reliable third down package, and because that was kind of what they ran on the play before halftime too, to get into field goal range. This is kind of a late game third down kind of situation. It's the same as the one early too. So I think there was definitely a design today for DeAndre. There was like here's a set of plays. Both of them kind of fit into the same category. And once again, I mean, you're right. You see, I mean, the guy still runs routes perfectly. I mean, he's an all-around receiver. He's got great hands. And he knows NFL defenses. So in both those situations, he was able to do exactly what the team needed him to do. The first case, just get open, get a first down. Second case, get open, get out of bounds, and executed it perfectly.
We're talking with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com, going over the Chiefs' 27-20 win over the Las Vegas Raiders. Sticking with the receiving core, it was kind of a unique game for Xavier Worthy. I think he had more than 2 drops, might have been 3 drops in this game, but he does have another receiving touchdown. He's had plenty of those in the first 7 games of the year. But it feels like on a week-to-week basis, you're seeing little flashes here and there, and then maybe a lot of rookie mistakes. And I wonder, Matt, how much of that is just being a rookie, regardless if Rashee Rice got hurt or Hollywood Brown got hurt, this was going to be how he looked? Or is it more so of he's been thrust now into such a high-leverage role, a guy that is expected a lot of, and he's still just, 21, 22 years old, trying to make things work in this offense?
Yeah, I think the way you mentioned it, it's, I think, a good way to put it, because to me, I think it really parallels what happened with Rashee Rice last year. And we were talking about some of the same things, a little bit different. Rashee Rice, with his rookie mistakes last year, he had some turnovers. I mean, he was having some fumble problems. That was kind of an issue for him. And, this year, you're seeing that there's still a learning experience for Xavier Worthy at this level. As accomplished and polished as a receiver as I think he came into this league doing, it's just different at this level. So, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve. And I mean, especially for somebody of his stature. I mean, let's face it, I think it's easier to come into this league if you're 6'4", 200 pounds than you're 5'11", 180, 175, 170, wherever he might be right now. I think it's just a little bit harder. And, it's definitely difficult when you're facing a lot of press coverage. And that certainly teams are trying to be physical with Xavier because they feel like that's how they can limit him. And what you said, I mean, the Chiefs are having to put him in more and more different roles. I mean, they envisioned him as truly just a Z receiver this year, someone that they could use in motion a lot, someone that could get the ball to out in space, take the occasional deep shot to, and they've had to use him in other situations. And as a result, he's being asked to do more than maybe he's ready to do at this level. And I think it's just natural to see that, hey, there's going to be growing pains along the way.
Matt, if there was one thing that I walk away from today's win with not feeling so great about, it has to be the left tackle position. Wanya Morris was flagged multiple times today. He was responsible for the one time that Patrick Mahomes got sacked. And what I go back to is that Wanya Morris is replacing the guy who got benched. So it's kind of tough to go back to the guy that you benched because you already put it in his mind that, hey, you just simply weren't good enough in the first 2 games of the year. And now Wanya Morris hasn't really taken that job and run with it. So how do you see this left tackle position playing out? Is Wanya going to start next week? Are they going to have to go to Suamataia again? I mean, how do you see this all playing out?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for the Chiefs because this game kind of felt the same way a little bit that it did when Suamataia got benched. It didn't really seem like the first half was that bad for Wanya, and then he just has a sequence that it just seemed like one thing after another was going wrong. I mean, obviously the Chiefs had that the drive that started at their own 8-yard line, one of 3 in a row. I mean, you have 3 drives starting at your 8-yard line. That's not advantageous for the offense. Mm-hmm. But that second one was tough one for Wanya because obviously in the first 2 he gets the holding call, and then the Chiefs get the interception on the third one. He had a bad, at least maybe just a terrible, you could say, maybe quarter. I mean, like I said, I didn't think the entire game was that bad as this a series of sequences that he had. And if that's just something that gets in your head, then, yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are going to have to figure out something to do next. And what is that? I mean, do you go back to Suamataia? Do you consider, I mean, you've got Ethan Driscoll, who's an undrafted rookie free agent. I'm not sure that's necessarily plan B either. But I think after this, yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are going to have some soul-searching this week. I mean, they've got an extra day at the Monday night game to figure it out. But at this point, I'm not sure who's going to be starting at left tackle on Monday night. I could certainly see them going back to Suamataia. I could still see them also sticking with Wanya if they think that he's the best guy at this point.
Now, coming up next, as you brought up, they got the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. Then they got the Denver Broncos, who are now 5-3 after a win against a bad Carolina team. Well, let's say this team wins those next 2 games. They're 9-0, and that sets up a matchup against the Buffalo Bills in Orchard Park. Who is their biggest threat right now in the AFC? Because I think everybody would have said Baltimore at about 1 o'clock today, but then Baltimore loses to Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns, who are 1-6. So is it Buffalo, who's now 6-2 after their win against Seattle on the road? Is it somebody else who we're not talking about, like a Houston? Is it somebody that is a complete dark horse that might be the biggest threat because of matchups? Who do you see right now as the biggest threat to an undefeated Kansas City team?
It's really interesting, Jack, because, I mean, it's not only just like who's the biggest threat, but how big is that gap? And if you take this Chiefs team, if you look at them over their last 13 games, they're 13-0 in the last couple of years, you're going to say there's a pretty big, distinction between the Chiefs and the rest of the conference. Yet you look at the games that they've played, and it's not like they're blowing anybody out. And they had some really close games, against the Ravens, who are in the mix, even against the Bengals, who aren't really in the mix right now. You've got the Bills, who are going to be coming up. I mean, they've had some tough games in that stretch, and you would look at it and say, hey, as a 7-0 team, this team doesn't look to be like a world beater. But at the same time, they've got Patrick Mahomes. They've got a bunch of Hall of Famers on this team. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're a good team, but how big is that gap? I'm just not sure it's as big as it looks on paper right now. But for sure, I mean, I still think that the Ravens are the second best team in this conference, despite a couple of other stumbles that they've had. So let's see what happens. But I think that's the second best team in the conference. But honestly, I mean, even if the Chiefs are 9-0 going to Buffalo, I think Buffalo wins that game.
We're talking with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com about the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. Now, it felt like for the third or fourth time this year, Matt, the defense gives up an opening drive touchdown, and then after that opposing offense can't do anything. I believe going into the fourth quarter, the Raiders had their 70-yard touchdown drive to open their first offensive chance in the game, and then had 78 yards since that point in time. What does that say about this defense? Is it more so talent, they match up well, or is it just about the adjustments that Steve Spagnuolo makes?
Yeah, to me, I mean, I think it's a lot about the adjustments that this team is able to make. There's absolutely no doubt. I mean, Steve Spagnuolo is the best in the business for a reason. But they've had this a couple of times where they've come out and maybe not been their best on the first couple of drives, and then really figure it out and shut things down. So to me, I mean, it's kind of what this team is known for. But I think that at the same time, you look at the stuff that's been consistent week in and week out. How good this team is against the run, it's impressive. How good they are against taking away the other team's number one weapon, it's been impressive.
And lastly, one more question for you here, Matt. I know that I think I've asked this to you a few times before, and it's hard to really pinpoint a negative or a huge flaw when you've won all 7 games because it's tough to win in the NFL, as we all know. But I think I asked you this about 3 or 4 weeks ago, so I'm going to do it again. What's the biggest thing that concerns you, maybe outside of injury, about this undefeated football team?
Yeah, it's probably changes week to week, but, today was probably the highlight. I mean, I think you've got to be worried about the left tackle position because that's the most important position on the offensive line. It's protecting the blind side of your franchise quarterback. And like we said, that was a rough, sequence that Wanya Morris had today, and not even, discounting the possibility of them getting injuries down the road. Do you feel like that's a position that isn't going to come up and hurt you at some point down the road, particularly in the playoffs and the postseason? I mean, I think the Chiefs got a lot of depth at a lot of different places, so I think they can withstand some injuries. They have withstood some injuries at different places. But that left tackle position, that's the one that worries me because I think that at some point during this season, we're going to look back at a game and say, hey, their inability to protect Mahomes at a key moment or in a key sequence was maybe the reason why they lost the game, and it could be a pivotal game.
All right, Matt. Well, appreciate your time as always, and we'll talk to you next Monday night.
Sounds great, Jack. Take care, my friend.
There he goes. That's our guy, Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com, and he's brought to you by Cap One Lending. Look forward to talking to him after the Chiefs and Bucks next Monday night at Arrowhead Stadium. We'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, we will wrap it all up on the Red and Gold Postgame Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Him the fastest, or the youngest, excuse me, to get to 30,000 passing yards in his career. The fastest to ever do it. Did it in, I think it was 109 games? 103 games. It was right ahead of Matt Stafford. I think it was 103 if I'm not mistaken. I think Stafford was 109. So the fastest to ever do it, I think I said youngest, meant to say the fastest to ever do it. Second place was Matt Stafford, but he did it there on that connection to DeAndre Hopkins, and that was the magic of Mahomes, which is brought to you by Westlake Commercial. A division of Westlake Ace Hardware is your local business-to-business supply partner. Our commercial team, dedicated business-to-business website, credit terms, and convenience store locations make it easy. Visit your local Westlake Ace Hardware store or www.westlakehardware.com/commercial today. Well, the Chiefs get it done once again in Vegas, once again in 2024. A perfect 7-0. After a 27-20 win over the Las Vegas Raiders, they have put themselves in a very good spot in the AFC playoff picture. They right now are the 1 seed. Houston and Buffalo right behind them at 6-2. The other division leaders in the AFC South and the AFC East. Pittsburgh right now is the leader in the AFC North at 5-2. They got the New York Giants on Monday Night Football. Then in the wild card picture, get this. 2 AFC West teams, the Denver Broncos and the LA Chargers, are right now in the playoff picture. Baltimore is as well, of course. They're 5-3 after their loss to Cleveland. So of Denver, the Chargers, the Colts, the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Browns, Vegas, Jacksonville, New England, the Jets, and Tennessee, somebody's got to make it. Somebody's got to make it. We know likely that KC, Houston, Buffalo, and Baltimore are all going to be in. Pittsburgh likely going to get in at this point. And there's 2 more spots up for grabs. I really don't know who's going to get it. Indianapolis and Anthony Richardson, who, by the way, took himself out of the game today because he was tired. Don't know if you saw that. Pretty wild stuff from Anthony Richardson. But for the Chiefs, no worries on their front. They're 7-0, a point differential of plus 50 in the AFC playoff picture. Up next, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes will clash, and we will talk to you on Monday night. You take it easy, Kansas City.